In this session, we're going to be talking with Jim Payne and Robert Holton. And our topic now is AI impact and the road ahead inside actual healthcare solutions, healthcare revolution. So welcome, Jim and Robert.
Hey, Amy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
I'm
Doing
good.
great. Yeah, doing great, Amy. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And so before we jump into the topic, I'd love for you to give just a brief background on yourselves, and we'll jump into the work that you're doing at AHS.
Take it
Sure,
away,
go ahead,
Rob.
Jim. Sure. So I'm Rob Holton. I'm president and COO of Actual Healthcare Solutions. By background, spent first 10 years in venture capital and spent the last 20 as an operating executive in healthcare technology companies, early stage to mid stage hypergrowth companies. And that's been my passion for the last 25 years. I've been with Actual Healthcare Solutions now a little bit over a year.
My name is Jim Payne. I'm a retired broadcast journalist, 44 years in the business. I come at this as sort of an everyman, and the founder of AHS, Dr. Jamie Wisser, is my longest best friend. And he came to me with a problem that he had been dealing with, or actually multiple problems in his practice, and said, I have an idea. And I think I want to start a company, and would you like to get on board? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And so I guess I'm one of the original gangsters here, and really happy to be on board.
Well, it's nice to see you both. I believe we caught up at the December summit, so it's nice to see you again. And for those in the audience who might not be familiar with Actual Healthcare Solutions and what your mission is, and your role in health IT, can you share a little background on exactly what you do and what your mission is?
Sure, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So, look, time matters in healthcare, right? To be completely cliche, and delays in healthcare, in their best case scenarios, degrade healthcare outcomes. In the worst case scenarios, delays can be deadly, right? And no more so than in specialty care. Whether those delays are, at the primary care physician's office trying to find the right specialist, or the delay in getting in to see that specialist, and assuming that the specialist is going to take on the patient, which, by the way, is a big assumption. Delays in getting to diagnosis, and that can be at radiology, right? Delays in scheduling at radiology centers, getting the results back, the actual images from radiology, getting interpretations, right, from radiologist reports. There's delays there, all the way down the line. And as those delays compound, right, they continue to degrade healthcare outcomes substantially. And that's where Actual Healthcare Solution comes in, right? The Actual Healthcare Solutions substantially accelerates the time to clinical and definitive operative care. And whether that is starting at the primary care physician's office, helping identify the right specialist, going really accelerating the entire process through to surgical intervention and actually into the surgical suite itself. And then also kind of closing the loop back to the primary care physician, right? And when we do that successfully, we are able to have a substantial impact on healthcare outcomes through the acceleration of critical care, but also have a fundamental impact on the economics of the underlying health systems and medical practices, both from a cost-saving standpoint as well as from an economic standpoint, both revenue generation and profitability enhancement.
Yeah, and if I could just follow up real quick, Rob. Jamie, Dr. Wisser, I remember him sitting in my living room one day and talking about his practice and the frustration that he felt. I mean, we're all patients, and so we know what it's like to go in for a physical, and the doctor has their face buried into a laptop, and they barely make eye contact, and they write you a script, and it's on you to find a specialist, perhaps, And he was just frustrated from the not only the caregiver standpoint, but all across the board, and thought about it and bounced ideas off of people and came up with this idea that is actual healthcare solutions. And once he got a hold of it, he never really let it go. And in time has surrounded himself with enough people to make this vision a reality. And Rob, it's not like he just latched onto one idea. He listened to people and he pivoted when we needed to make pivots and wasn't completely beholden to that original thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that there are, I think that what you just shared is really interesting because there are so many hurdles that we face in healthcare. And obviously you're looking to solve some of the access and trying to accelerate people getting the help that they need as quickly as possible. And also being a startup, there are hurdles with healthcare, there are hurdles with startups. As you're looking to continue to grow and scale your organization and the work that you're doing, what are some of the biggest challenges as AHS? What have you faced, and what are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing as you're looking to scale the offering?
Yeah, I think, Amy, look, there's a set of hurdles that every startup, regardless of industry, faces, right? And we don't need to kind of delve into those, but I think there's a set of unique circumstances in healthcare and hurdles, especially for an early stage company in AI in general, right? And so to kind of look at those hurdles, let's keep it really simple at the top level. I'm going to break AI into two buckets, right? And just so I don't get hammered on LinkedIn and Twitter for oversimplifying AI, this is for like example purposes, right? But if we think about AI in healthcare in two different buckets, one is from like a workflow standpoint, right? Think of AI being helping with prior authorizations and bill codes and CPT codes and so forth, right? The actual workflow of healthcare, right? And then there's the second part of AI, which is the clinical AI. That's actually part of either clinical decision support that's actually interacting with healthcare decisions, right? So if you bifurcate those, if we talked 2 years ago, AI in general, people were kind of like, yeah, we don't want it. It's something that's new. Look, AI, the unique thing about AI is the ability, always outpaces the adoption, right? And so how do we look at that? The good news is if you look at those two buckets, right, kind of the workflow bucket is really started to be accepted across the board in healthcare. And so one of the things as you penetrate the market is can you anchor part of your product in that acceptable workflow and almost uses a Trojan horse, right, to get into the clinical side if you so choose. Because there's some robust products out there. AHS has done that. But the harder and the bigger hurdle really is on the clinical AI, right? And I think as we've progressed and brought clients on board and been through sales calls ad nauseum, I think the really two biggest pushbacks that we see, right, from the clinical AI component, one is half the population says, I don't trust it, I don't believe it, you can't take the human out of healthcare. I agree with that, by the way, as does AHS. We're never looking for AI to take it out of healthcare. The other component is they're fully bought in and saying, yeah, but AI is changing so rapidly. Next month, I'm going to sign this big long contract next month, there's going to be a better AI. And it's like analysis paralysis. And so these are hurdles. How do you handle these? Right? From AHS, the way that we've looked at it is we've never seen AI as a tool to replace humans. Whether we're using AI to generate, we're integrated with EMRs, whether we're using the AI to generate clinical summaries of the patient, whether we're doing, ambient dictation, transcription, and automatic SOAP note generation, mm-hmm. or whether we're using our AI in radiology. We're not looking to replace that radiologist, right? What we're looking to do is accelerate the time to care so that they can continue the care path, as they're waiting for the declarative answer from the human, right? But I think the bigger question is the analysis paralysis, right? The way that AHS has dealt with this is that we don't build our own AI from scratch, We take the best AI, medical grade AI that's out in the market. We'll train it, we'll adapt it, and we'll put it into our platform. But our commitment to our clients is you will have the best AI in the marketplace with AHS. So next month, if a new radiology or a new oncology AI comes out, for us, it's simply buying the license, incorporating it into our platform, and pushing it out. So we're removing two of the biggest hurdles of AI adoption and taking them to and putting them to our advantage.
Well, I think that's great. And I also think it's really, it's so important to understand what these hurdles are so that you can be prepared to address them and overcome them, which clearly you are doing. So that's really critically important to capture that feedback from the different organizations you're talking to, take that to heart, and then know how to address it so that they no longer become hurdles for you. So that's a great example. And as we close out, I'd like to ask, where do you see the biggest opportunities for AHS to make lasting impact on our healthcare ecosystem, especially as we're seeing AI adoption continue to grow?
Yeah, great question. I think, long term, to me, I've always looked at healthcare, and AI can play such a huge component in this. We see data is critical, right? And we see these silos. We've got the healthcare system silo of all of the data, right? And they're trapped in their EMRs, right? And then you've got all of this data that resides at the payers, right? And that data points, are siloed, and we've done work, the industry, to be able to go back and forth, but there's another side of the data silo that's critically important to healthcare outcomes, and that's the patient-generated data, right? And quite frankly, it's coming, from a lot of the apps and programs that insurance carriers are including in the benefit plan. But that data is siloed off from the people that actually need the data, which is the healthcare professionals. And I think if you can bridge that divide, and that's what AHS is working to in the next kind of iteration approach, if you can bridge that data gap with AI and be able to not only access the data on the consumer side, right, and the insurance side, but synthesize it, integrate it into the EMRs of your providers, and provide it so that it's a meaningful structured data that they can actually utilize as part of the treatment protocol. I think that's the next great utopia in healthcare, and AI is going to play a critical component of that because of just the sheer mass of data.
Yeah, and bringing all those data pieces together for the right decision making, the right actions to be taking, so that we can support the right diagnosis, intervention, or therapeutic course is key. So I think that makes a lot of sense, and I love the way you are leveraging AI in this much needed space. And would just like to say thank you both, Jim and Robert, for joining the conversation today, and wish you continued success in this journey. So thanks so much for your time. And
thanks, Amy. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Good seeing you again.
You too.